It's going to do my head in whilst we're recording. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Luke's Deadpool podcast. I'm here today joined with my friend Luke. How you doing, Luke? Good to see you, my friend.
It's a pleasure to be here. A pleasure to be on your podcast at last.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? It's a long time coming, man. I'm glad to have you here. I spent the morning sort of doing little bits of research and stuff about you and what you've been up to in your life. And man, you've led a really interesting life so far. For a young man, you've done some really cool things, and what you've been doing with university and then with Radio Lab and then going into BBC, like, dude, just smashing it.
I mean, somebody said to me the other day that, you know, I turned 25 in January, and what I've done in 24 years of being around is more than most people would achieve in 40, 50, 60 years. And do you know what? Life isn't about just waiting for things to happen. You just got to ride the roller coaster and enjoy it.
Yeah.
If you don't just go out and do something, then you're just going to keep sitting around waiting for things to fall on your lap. And, you know, I think my mantra has always been just go out and seize the day.
Yeah.
Go out and do it. And
take that risk.
Yeah, exactly. And it frustrates me how many conversations I've had with people who are stuck in relationships, stuck in careers, stuck in jobs that they don't want to be in, and they're not changing it, not being proactive, they're not doing something to say, you know what, I want to do this, I want to get here. Just do it.
Yeah, right? I know what you mean, man. I feel the exact same way. I know many people who seem kind of stuck. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if it's their fault necessarily, because I think that we're presented with this idea of how life is supposed to be from a very, very young age. And, you know, you're supposed to go and get a job, you're supposed to go and get a house, you're supposed to go and get a car and become a wife and have children, and have a dog and blah, blah. You have to have all this stuff to make it like a perfect sort of life. And that's not true for everybody. Like, some people, that's like a really big threat to them being in that situation, because they're not made for that. They need to be somewhere else. They need to maybe be on their own, living abroad, traveling the world, or whatever it is. And I think that the reason why people feel so stuck is because, you know, they're not used to the idea of breaking out of that norm.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I absolutely agree with you. There was a society where you are confined to a box, even throughout education. You are stuck in the same. You are going through a set process. If you're not meeting those criteria, then you are outcast. And I think, certainly with my story and what life that I've lived, that I've just defined that, because life isn't about being labelled. It isn't about being defined by, you know, what you are capable of or what you're not capable of.
Yeah.
It's about who you are as a person and what you bring to the table.
Yeah, what you actually do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's where I sort of fit in.
Let me ask you this then, because obviously, you've got a genuine story to tell, because I think what I really enjoyed reading about you this morning on the Bed's Uni website, and then listening to your video, like, you speak so well. You're awesome. I love listening to you talk. You're a really cool guy to listen to. But what I really found fascinating was that you really struggled at first, like, before coming to university. Like, the world was not an easy place for you to exist in.
Absolutely.
And you've really gone through some stuff that you've strived and achieved. And tell me about your experience. Tell me, like, where it started. Like, what was school like?
Okay, so
if you don't mind talking about it too.
I am no holds barred. I will talk about everything.
That's me.
So I have high functioning autism and ADHD, and I was diagnosed when I was 4 years old. And, you know, growing up in Luton, growing up in a family, and growing up at a time where learning disability still isn't understood. I mean, it's a lot more understood and accepted now, but certainly 25 years ago, it was a different understanding of it. You know, people were very new to it, and certainly the education system hadn't adapted enough to it.
Yeah. And
I think, children now have so much more support and so much more opportunity than there's been in my day, that's for sure. But so I had autism, and, you know, going through primary school, going through high school, you know, it was always a challenge. You know, I was bullied a lot, went through a lot of dark days, a lot of dark hours, and I think whilst, you know, teenagers do go through those times, you know, it's part of, you know, puberty and part of becoming a teenager and all that kind of thing. I just had it times 10, times 20, you know.
Yeah.
And there was dark hours, but I always think back to myself back then, and no matter how low I felt, I knew there would be a brighter tomorrow. I knew there was something that I could focus on. Something, getting through to the GCSE, going through, and there were stumbling blocks. I wasn't cut out for A levels. I wasn't cut out for for standard education. I only have one A level, one B Tech at level 3. Like to some people,
still an achievement.
That's ludicrous.
No, but it's still an achievement.
It's an achievement as such. But I was always to some people, I was always the higher learner. I was always going to be the one that's going to be AA stars, and I think there are still people who are disappointed that I didn't do that. But
really?
Yeah, people had a lot of high expectations for me because there were certain areas, especially like maths and English, where I thrive and excel, and the fact that I only came out of B's and C's was not good enough.
Well, let me tell you this: you beat me up and down with that. And in school, I failed miserably. I went through a really hard time towards the end of school, and I just fell out with education massively. I was a high achiever up until about year 9, year 10 and 11. I absolutely ruined myself. So I left school with, I think I had a B in maths, and I had an E in English. Yeah, that's pretty bad, right? Pretty bad. But since then, I've gone on to get MDQ level 3s. I'm in university studying now. So, school doesn't define.
No, absolutely not.
And I'm sorry for you having to go through such a rubbish time.
Don't apologise.
No, but it's horrible. I hate the idea of someone as nice as you having to go through that. It's really bad.
But what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right?
Yeah.
And I went through some dark times, but it makes me part of the person I am now, and I guess it makes the fairy tale even seem sweeter. And
I know
going through that, and getting into university on a foundation year, and then being able to go to the first year within a week of that, that was my moment. And people, and I go back to what we were saying earlier, people need that one moment that people believe in them. People need a turning point that they are given that opportunity that they can run with it and prove themselves. And that was it. And, here I am, 5 years later with a master's degree, and, I'm myself. I've sort of turned things around. So, yeah, it's been a roller coaster, and, life continues to be a roller coaster. But, yeah, the last 10, 15 years, I do look back and think, how have I done that?
No, mate, I'm not surprised at all with what I see you doing now, and meeting you and talking to you and seeing your passion and drive. I'm not surprised at all of what you've achieved so far, and I can't wait to see what you do next. I can't wait to see what you're like in 10, 20 years time.
Yeah.
I think that you're going to be a really big figure in the media one day, and I think you're going to, because of the goodness of your intention, I really hope you stay true to that, because I know that world can kind of get a bit dark as well.
Yeah, I absolutely. I think like myself is that, being from Luton, being proud to be from the place that we are, it's that we've grown up in the society where Luton gets a bad name, where it gets a bad reputation. We've been absolute crap in the media, and I think growing up in Luton, and seeing the positive side of a place that isn't like anywhere else on earth, isn't like any other society you'll see. You can go into London, you can go into Manchester, Liverpool, anywhere else, and you won't find a more multicultural, more upbeat, vibrant community than in Luton.
Yeah,
and to have that as a badge of honour in terms of giving Luton a bright name, and be able to tell the stories, and be able to meet the people that make Luton great. That's why I'm a journalist. That's why I live to tell people stories and to be able to make sure it's heard by everyone. Really.
Oh, mate, you and me both, brother. So we're warriors in arms together on that journey, because that's exactly what I'm trying to do with what we're doing here right now. Because I want to expose big voices in Luton who really need to be heard more. I've got quite a young audience as well that kind of follows me, so I know that there's going to be kids out there who are going to hear me and you talking, and they might think, I've got a similar situation to Luke, actually.
Yeah.
And do you know what? I don't want to do the thing that everybody's telling me to do.
Yeah.
I've got an idea of what I want to do. He's just giving me hope that I can go and do that now.
Yeah.
That's the kind of point of all of this is, I may be out there doing good work and stuff, but the core of my work is to expose people to great Lutonians.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because I believe what you believe. I think this is a real special place. It's just so different to everywhere else. Like when I was at the Rumfest the other day, the announcer there, who was on the microphone throughout the day, he came up to me whilst everybody had gone off to a run, and we was talking, and he said, I've been up and down the country, I do announcements in stadiums, I do it in events, like charity dues, and he said, it kind of feels a bit plastic when you're everywhere else. But here in Luton, everybody's actually in it, and everybody really means it. He's like, there's nowhere else like that. And that's a guy that travels the whole UK, and he's in these charitable situations constantly. Like, he sees us as being set apart. I think he's right.
Yeah, he absolutely is. And, you know, where Luton is going in the future and what we've got coming with Power Broad and the 2040 plan and everything else that's got to sound like a councillor, is that actually we're at a turning point where, you know, things are getting better for the town. And you said it right, is that there aren't many people like me who aren't these high achievers who've gone on to Oxford and Cambridge and gone. You don't need to do that.
No.
And I think there is certainly a lot to be said. There is an image, certainly within 16, 17-year-olds, is that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Is that you have to be, you know, if you're smart, you have to go to Cambridge. You know, you've got to be able to strive, and which is somewhat true, but it's not for everyone.
No.
And you know, there are people like me who, maybe not get the best education, but you can still turn out all right.
I mean, like, it depends on what you call good education and bad education. I mean, for me, a simple thing as a teacher, a really good teacher, can be the change in a person. And I mean, you know, obviously Oxford, Cambridge, they're great institutions, right? Like Imperial College in London, like big places like that, really good places. And you're going to get really super highly intelligent people, but it might not be the tutor that you need to change your life.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Precisely.
And that could come from absolutely anywhere. So to be just so laser focused on needing to be the best institution doesn't necessarily give you the best results. I mean, you know, you're a good example of that. Like, you've gone to Bedfordshire University, which isn't all the way up there in the best unis in the world, but it's got a special heart. And,
it does.
And there's a really good atmosphere there, and they're so community driven. It's like, I think that because of that, it sets that uni actually apart in a way, and it makes it really special. I've never been there myself. I'm not studying there currently. But when I finish my degree, I'm looking at going back and doing another degree in something completely different, and I'm going to go there because the things I've heard and what I've heard from you, it sounds like it would suit me down to a T.
Yeah, precisely. And I think the thing I love most about university, and people ask me this time and time again, that I chose to stay home and study in Luton because what the university gives to students, not only from Luton and local, but also abroad, is an opportunity to innovate and excite and to be able to change themselves. And you know, it gives you so much more that no other uni could really give you that experience. And you know, I was just fortunate enough to get a degree and, you know, become the person who I am now. And you know, I had offers to go elsewhere. I would be a different person if I had gone with those. But yeah, it's got a special place in my heart. And yeah, people to only see it for what it is, and you know, at the bottom of the university tables and everything else, it's not.
Yeah,
it's a pretty cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like, my next question would be then, after doing university and being successful there, what is life like for you now?
What is life for me
and
now?
just let me check that we're still actually recording. Because you know what? The last time I had a podcast, I'm not going to name the person actually. Yes, we're still recording. Oh my God. So we'll just talk about this very quickly and then we'll talk about your thing. So last podcast episode I recorded was with a gentleman who I went round to his house. We recorded for about an hour. And I went and checked the camera, because as you can see, we can't see, can we, what's going on. I went round to check the camera and it stopped at 6 minutes because the microphone failed. For no reason. Like, I don't know, I've done the same thing repeatedly, and then just this one time the microphone fails, and then it cuts the whole thing. So, yeah, that's why I want to check that. Let's go back to you. Okay, so now you are working.
I am working in a casino.
That is interesting.
So I've worked as a bookmaker for 3 years.
Okay.
Wanted a bit of change. So now I'm working at a casino. But I think for me, it's that, certainly in a post-pandemic world, is that whilst we are able to see each other again. Things are a lot different to how they were 18 months ago. Is that we now are in a more competitive market. We're in a market where people are going to be competing for jobs more than they were 2 or 3 years ago, because you've got people who were stuck in during the pandemic, like myself, got my master's degree during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And, we're coming out the other side, and I think it's interesting to see how the unemployment rate and everything else, because people are wanting those jobs, because there's more people who need them.
Yeah.
And yes, we're in this energy crisis during the winter as well, but also what you have to factor in is that there isn't a job for everyone.
Yeah.
And to be a journalist and be a broadcaster, that's a competitive industry.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
And those opportunities aren't going to come straight away. And it might be 2 years, it might be 5 years that I get another opportunity. But you just have to stay driven and stay focused. That one day it will come around and the time will come.
Yeah.
And I've got no doubt about that. It's just about staying focused. And I think, like we said earlier, a lot of other people go, if it's not for me, then I'll just go around on the path, and they don't follow their dreams. And it's annoying when you see that. Whereas I think for me, I sort of have to do it now.
No, I totally
I've
respect
got the qualifications and the experience. It's in front of me.
Yeah, I mean, you can always choose to do whatever the hell you want at any period of time in your life. I mean, for God's sakes, Colonel Sanders started KFC when he was 60 years old. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Up until then, he just had repetitive job after job after job of different industries, and he never loved any one of them. And he found a love for food.
Yeah.
I know that people probably overuse that as an example, but it's true. It's really true. I use that in my life to think about what I want to be constantly. Like, I've pivoted so many times. I've been on one track. Like, I'm going to be, an electrical engineer. I was like building robots and maintaining like really high-powered systems. And it was a really, really interesting job. But I realised I didn't love the people in it and the way it worked. So I pivoted. I've gone in a different direction. I've done it several times in my life. Like, I trained to be a paramedic originally, and I realised it wasn't really going to be for me. Like, I didn't have it in me to do the kind of thing and see the whole sights that these people would see. It's not something that I could particularly have done. Now I could probably do it, but back then I couldn't do it. And it's like, I think that we hold ourselves to too high a standard sometimes, and we forget that, just give yourself a little break. Like, you would say it to another person, right?
Yeah.
You would say it to another person if they weren't necessarily fully on the path that they're on. You'd be like, don't worry about it. It will come when it comes. But you really struggle to say it to yourself at times. So what I've had to learn to do over my life is to just stop listening to that voice that says you can't. And stop listening to that voice that says this isn't going right for you, or this needs to happen quicker. Instead, I tune that voice out and I just forget about what's going to be tomorrow. I just think about today. Do you know what I mean?
People struggle to step back. People really do struggle to sort of take a step back and look at the bigger picture, because they're so stuck in the rat race of working Monday to Friday, stuck in their job, just paycheck to paycheck. That it's not all about that. And there's been times where I have thought about quitting one job and taking a pay cut and doing it, because I know that opportunity will give me more skills, more time to actually work with people and do something I'll actually enjoy, rather than staying in a job there where I know I'm good at it, but I won't enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a key difference at the moment. And like we said earlier about education, is that a lot of people are going into things that they know they're good at, but they won't enjoy.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's such a pivotal difference.
Yeah. And I think that as well, they kind of get their dream confused with the realistic chances of things happening. And like, when the dream doesn't start to come true, it becomes like a real existential threat to that person. And I think that kind of then will make them struggle to take a risk more, to do the thing that will make them happy, and rather stay comfortable in whatever they was doing, even if it made them unhappy. At least I'm secure in that place.
Yeah.
Because for me, what I really tried to manifest throughout my life is to be really goal driven, right? And it is really important to be goal driven, but it's also important to understand that sometimes you will not reach them goals, and that's okay. Failure, like you said it perfectly when I watched your video and read your words. Like, you talk about how learning to fail is so important. And without that ability to learn to fail, how do you ever really learn?
Yeah.
And it's so true. Like, you need to know how to take a knockdown, because if you don't know how to get knocked down, you don't know how to brace yourself for the impact, and then how to get back up afterwards.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you just end up like a turtle, your back rolling around.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Unable to do anything, just paralysed by the situation. So yeah, like, I think what you said about failure is so true. That's what, for me, I think of my life in terms of like goals, like where I want to be, what I want to do. So I'm going to announce it now, actually. In March, I'm jumping out of a plane. I'm going to do it for Noah, for charity.
I mean that was a divot, but okay.
Yeah, well, I saw this thing that Noah were doing. They're asking people to come jump out of the plane. So yeah, they need me to raise a certain amount of money to be able to do it. So I'm going to be looking for funding. I hope people can help me out because it's a good cause. But I'm going to like start promoting that stuff soon enough. But yeah, like doing something like that, I've always had it in the back of my mind, and then it's come up, and I'm just jumping straight at it. Yeah. I'm just going to go and do it, because this is, and even if it comes down to it, I have to pay every penny myself. I know it would be going to a good cause, and it's going to be an insane experience. And not only that, how funny it would be to see me flying and flipping around out of a plane in my Deadpool suit.
I mean, as long as you land.
Hey man, if I land, it doesn't really matter. I can't die, man. I'll be fine. As long as, yeah, I say that. You can see the news headline, like, in the next couple of months. Deadpool, not quite.
Not quite.
Yeah. Okay. So for me, I'd say I've got my goals and stuff. I think quite short term. Like, what do you think in terms of goals, and like, what are yours?
Good question. I mean, the goal is to just get the most out of life, really. I think, obviously, in my career, I'd love to be like BBC. I'd love to, be a name that, people can, and not necessarily be a trustworthy, but be a household name that people are not necessarily listening to my every word, but able to come to me with stories and be able to grow my, maybe I'm using the wrong silent, but I guess grow my audience, grow my community wider, so that I am able to tell more stories and be able to get those stories out to a wider people and a wider audience. And I think
building your profile.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's one way to put it. But you never know where life might take you. Working at a casino at the moment, I could be in Vegas in 2 years. You never know where I think you just got to be able to take one day at a time, but also anticipate the next 3 or 4 or 5 steps ahead. And you never know what will be next. So, but like I said at the start of this interview, is that I'm 25 in January. I've got a place of my own. I've got a master's degree.
You're smashing it. You're smashing it. No, seriously. At 25 years old, what was I doing? I was in Birmingham. I was living in Birmingham. I actually responded to Luton, and I went away. It was horrible, but I should have never have done it. Yeah. Never ever leave this town, to go and live. Maybe go and stay somewhere for a little while, but don't permanently leave. Yeah. It's such a bad idea. Oh my God. I lived in Birmingham for a little while. And it was great a place as it is for like a nightlife and stuff. Then stay Brighton, like, that's no fun at all. No disrespect, Brighton. Well, you live in a terrible place. I don't care. I'm Luton's Deadpool. I'm Birmingham's Deadpool. They can get their own. But yeah, like when I was 25, I didn't have my own place. I think I had a car and finance, and that was all I owned really. I just had a steady job, and to be honest with you, I wasn't happy. I really, really wasn't happy. I'd made so many mistakes up to that point. My life didn't really start until, I don't know, when I was about 28, I guess. Didn't really become the joy that it is now. So yeah, you're absolutely killing it, man. I see so many younger people like you who just doing really well with life, and yet they've got them questions about themselves. I mean, you've got a really good outlook. It doesn't seem like you're muddled up at all. You've got quite a clear focus on just making sure you benefit the most from every experience, right?
Yeah, and I think one of my other mantras, I guess, is surround yourself with the right people. And if you put yourself in the right place where you've got your network around you, that even when you have got those doubts, you have got those questions, you've got people to go to and turn to. Really.
Yeah.
And I've got a fairly good following. I've people on Instagram and
Yeah.
Twitter and social media, but also locally as well, is that I've got enough people around me where I know if I'm ever in that hour of New York in that moment, I think I need to make a change there. I need to do something. I can go, okay, what do you think I can do? And get that advice and opinion that I know I can value and trust well enough to go, actually, you've got a point there.
Yeah.
You've got a point. I may not agree with it. I may not take that advice, but I know what you are saying is something that I can relate to and something I can agree with and respect.
Yeah.
And it's so important, and especially, as I said earlier.
Your hands over mine. I'm so sorry if we don't hear what Luke just said. He just said something beautiful. I really hope you picked that up. I'm sorry, man. Sorry to interrupt you, but I just saw it.
I mean, if it doesn't pick up, what is it to us?
I'll do subtitles. That's what I need to start doing, seriously. When I had Hanan here, we had the film with him. Mate, I had the camera set up over there, so far away, you can't even see his face properly. He's really blurry. And then he kept going like this all throughout. No offense, Hanan, but he was. He was going all like this throughout. And do you know what? It just messes the mic up. But anyway, sorry, carry on, please.
So you sort of surround yourself with people, and it's so important, like you said earlier, about the economy that we're living in and the competitive jobs market, is that it comes down to not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah.
And that's such a key difference and such a key aspect right now, is that you have to surround yourself with people to be able to progress and move forward. And otherwise, I think the way that I see it, and I think I never forget watching this video. Steve Harvey.
Is that the guy in America?
Yeah. So if you plant a seed in a plant pot, that plant will grow, but we have limited space to grow.
Yeah.
But if you take that plant out and plant it in a garden or somewhere where it has space to grow, then that tree will grow and grow and grow and will expand.
Yeah.
And it's only down to you for limiting that plant pot, limiting that capability to how far you can grow and what you can achieve.
Yeah.
And something as stupidly simple as that just puts everything in perspective as to how you can be whoever you want to be and reach the goals that you want to do.
It's so true, man. It's so true. Like I was last year. I got the inspiration to come back and be there, right? Because I'd originally done it with my group.
Yeah.
But I had loads of requests to come back, and then I was at the Community Interest Awards last year, and I was sat around just a ton of absolute heroes, and just hearing their stories really inspired me to try. And I was like, last year Christmas I went out dressed like Deadpool, Santa suit and stuff all mixed up on it, and I went out and I didn't get any support from anyone, really. Like, I think that it was almost like I felt really embarrassed whilst I was doing it last year, because I felt like nobody cared, and friends and family weren't particularly helpful with it, which I don't care to say because it's true. I needed the help and I didn't get supported in the early days. So it was quite hard to do, and I got a few knockbacks. And during Christmas last year, it was the only thing that made me realise that it's worth doing is that I don't need their acknowledgement.
No.
I don't need people to tell me that I'm doing good. No. All I need is to see them little kids come running up to me, super happy, blown away that I've made their Christmas because they've seen Deadpool.
Yeah.
And then that's what gave me the motivation to just keep going and to, like you say, just expand myself in an area where I never realised I was so confined before to this thought of judgment from friends and family mattered the most in anything. And it's not true. It's about what you feel in your heart when you do the things that you love.
Yeah, and we live in such a great society that you can be proud to be different and be proud of who you are. I mean, last Christmas I think was such an important time. Yeah, it was the first Christmas properly, I guess, after lockdown, this was on the front still around. But more people were seeing family, more people were spending time with friends, and obviously we've got going into Christmas this year is that people are being able to get back to normal, and we wouldn't be able to say that to you.
No, exactly.
And I think it's so important that valuing every minute you've got and valuing the people you've got around you, because you never. Who's to say in 5 years' time there might be another way? He was just saying, 50 years' time, there'll be another thing coming up. And that's within my lifetime.
Oh, do you want to talk? do you want to freak yourself out a little bit? Actually, something that I've been sort of watching recently that's really scaring me about what the future may hold. So, do you know what the toric meter stream is? You do. Okay, so the toric, for people that don't know, the toric meter stream is something that comes into our orbit 2 times a year, right? It is 30 million kilometers in diameter, right? And we pass through its path. It comes round from behind the sun around June 30th, and we pass through it. And then again, we pass through it on the complete other side of the orbit of the Earth. And this thing contains objects in it that are between like a kilometre in length to 5 kilometres, which is the central sort of comet in this stream. And if any one of those 1 kilometre objects hits us, it will be like 5 million megaton bombs going on. And it would change the atmosphere, it would change like everything about life, like crops would die, animals would die. It would literally be an apocalypse. Like sea levels would rise exponentially. And we are overdue being hit by it. By, I think it's like 100 years, we're overdue. So we're in the window to be hit by this meteor stream. And it's really frustrating because we've known about this for a long time. Like, I think it was in the early 1900s. There's a place called Tungsten in Syria. Yeah, you know that place? Yeah, one of the objects from the toric meteor stream came into Earth. It was only 100 meters in diameter, but it exploded above a field of trees. Luckily, not over a town, because when it exploded above this field, it flattened trees for 2,000 acres.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Like, and that was a small one, and there's massive ones in there all the time, and we are doing nothing about it. Like, we could genuinely prevent this from happening, but nobody's doing anything.
I'm not an expert in space stuff, but it's things like that where, like climate change, like the economy and things like that, where there are factors that are going on around us right now that are terrifying.
Yeah,
and certainly, it's if you told yourself 10 years ago this would be the society we live in now, you wouldn't believe it.
Yeah,
and but it's down to people. It's down to change, and I could talk politics till I'm blue in the face. I could talk, there are so many decisions being made at every level that it's having such a wider impact that those people don't fully appreciate that.
Can I ask you a question?
Go on.
Mad, random question. I don't ask this to too many people, but I think I'm going to ask this every show. Like, if you had a magic wand, and you could do whatever you want, you have one thing that you can do to change everything, right? What would you do? I'll put you on the spot here a bit.
Such a broad question.
Yeah. I fully took you on the spot. Do you know what? We'll revisit that.
Well, okay, let's break that question down. Yeah, I could say I want £1 trillion, but I put that money towards good causes and change. I could say I want to be the world's most influential person, so that I can influence change and do that.
I mean, that's a good one. I trust you, but you've got good intentions. I don't think you're a bad guy. I think that you would make a good leader. I think you would make a good leader.
But there's so many. It's like most things. Is that with every superhero there's a supervillain,
Yeah.
And to get into politics and get into democracy, there are so many twists and turns and cobwebs around it that it's when you really examine it and really magnify it, it's you look at whether it is worth it. But there's I think I'd struggle to pick one because there is so much to do.
Yeah,
but it's a combination of the root cause of change in society.
But what would you say is the root problem right now? What is if you could say, narrow it down to just one thing that causes like problem and pain. Greed. Okay, cool. That's narrowed it down quite a bit. It has, but then at the same time, it's sort of expanded it because there's so many different kinds of greed, right?
There is, and financial greed, economic greed, and
people that are power crazy.
Yeah, of course. And you look at poverty, you look at unemployment, you look at all these things that just boil down to the upper class being wanting to have more power, to have more money, and it's mind-boggling when you look at these giant conglomerates that are like people like Vauxhall, for example. Let's talk. When they closed down their Luton stock, 20 odd years ago, still going right. Yeah. That had such a massive impact on the town.
Yeah,
is that none of those decision makers could fully understand and comprehend how much of a difference it made to a place that had Vauxhall for 50, 60 years.
It broke our town.
Exactly.
It really broke our town. Because I remember growing up, I had family who worked at Vauxhall, and I knew plenty of people whose family worked at Vauxhall. And then, it's crazy to think that their world was shattered at a certain point, and jobs were lost tenfold, and this town stopped being the industrial hustle and bustle that there was back in like the 70s. And from what I've heard, I'm not that old, so everybody knows. But it's a sad thing that happened, because if we wasn't so motivated by financial gain, we wouldn't have moved factories out of the UK. We would have kept them here, and allowed other countries to still build and to maintain themselves with their own workforce, but not to outsource everything that we get to foreign countries. Like, I'm glad in a way that we did, because by doing what we did, it has lifted the world up.
Yeah.
Because, there were places that were third world countries not that long ago that are now thriving industrial places, and that is due to us sort of like, losing out a little bit in our own land, but then helping to set up businesses in other places that give jobs to, say, like in the cotton industry. We don't make anything out of cotton over here really anymore.
No.
I think Burnley was like the place where cotton was like really heavily produced. I think it's Burnley, I'm not sure. But now, we don't make that stuff anymore. So there's like humongous areas in the UK which were like really well balanced.
Yeah.
Now they're struggling, and it's, people wonder why there's certain parts up north that are just really deprived. And you shouldn't wonder, because that used to be the hub of like technological change in industry, and it's just gone. Yeah. It's all gone.
And Vauxhall left Luton in 2002, so that was before 2008. That was before the financial crash and before and everything else and the recession. It's that we look back at it now, it was different. I remember that it was different times, but I'm not going to go into that history repeating itself.
Yeah.
You do have that feeling that, we are sort of back to square one again to how we were 15 years ago.
Yeah.
But obviously where we've moved on in so many other ways is that, there are pros, but there are definitely more cons. Pros.
Yeah.
And
I think Luton now is a place of culture and arts.
Yeah.
That's what I see Luton as now. And it's not, it's a sporting town as well. It's a really big sporting town. But, we're not so much of an industrial town. We've developed and changed. And I see us like, man, look at where we're sat right now. This beautiful building, the Hat Works. We've got the Hat Factory just over the road. This whole Hat district is insane. We've got so much here in the arts. And we've got the Carnival Arts Centre just down the road as well. Every year they're making stuff for the Luton Carnival. Banging Carnival event. Such a good showcase of what the town is capable of. Because it's not just them that make stuff for the carnivals. The whole town gets involved. Yeah. That's what I kind of see Luton as being nowadays. It's more of a culture hub, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, people come to the university from far afield. Is that, I always highlight and exemplify that the carnival is one of the highlights of the year.
Yeah.
Is that it really shows that, as I said earlier, how multicultural, diverse, and just how brilliant Luton as a place to grow up and to be from.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is more culture and arts than industry, but that's not a bad thing.
Well, football as well.
Yeah.
Football. We're big for our football. Let's talk football, actually. What do you think about Nathan Jones?
Good old man.
I'm gutted, man.
I'm disappointed, but
Fair play to him.
fair play to him.
Yeah.
I think when he came in 6 years ago now, nearly 7, we just come up from the Conference Group League 2, and I think a lot of Luton fans have anticipated being around League 2, League 1 for quite a while.
Yep.
Obviously we haven't done it, and then the way that he changed the club, back-to-back promotions. Yes, he left us for Stoke, but what he then left us probably in part 1 is that we were a much stronger side to then go under the club, go on being for the rest of the season, and go up to the championship. Pretending that Graham Jones never happened. And then when he came back, and a lot of people are still divided when he came back, keeping us in the league, keeping us sustainable. But
Last season
was magic.
It was. I was there for the Huddersfield game in the playoff semis, right? And flipping out. I was there for the first game of the season, and I was there for the last, really. And I've never felt what I felt in the stadium that day. We drew, unfortunately, but we had such a mad amount of chances all throughout the game. Harry Cornick should have put one away in that game, but whatever, it didn't happen. But it was so magic, man. Was you working?
I was at the O2 with Linus the Trophy on the side.
Oh, yeah, is it?
Because he was fighting for the British title.
He was. It was the same day. Yeah, I remember that.
I think to reach the playoffs, I couldn't have cared less whether we won or lost.
Yeah.
Because the fact that we got there was still an achievement. And this season has been a steady start. Yes, we've had some disappointing results, but what Nathan has been able to do over the last 6 years as a whole, exemplary. And for all the doubters who said he was a snake and he was a turncoat for when he left, they can't really say that after whoever comes on board now, there are certainly a lot of names that are in the mix, but they have such big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
That they're going to have a job on their hands going into the year. And,
I think the reason why people do feel disheartened about him going is because this is kind of how we're treated as a town in general. Everybody that starts doing well in Luton leaves.
Yeah.
As soon as they start doing well, they leave. And fair play to Nathan for going to Southampton, and I'm sure he's going to do a great job for them. And if he doesn't, he's always welcome back. We'll always have him back, I think. But it's just, this is why this town has problems, because we start to have someone that's doing well, and then they get an opportunity to go elsewhere. They'll go to London, they'll go to somewhere up north, they'll go abroad, or they just won't live here and carry on putting their positive influence in this town. I keep saying to the really cool people that I meet, don't leave this town. Please don't leave, because we need you to to stop this being this sort of we're almost floating at the edge of greatness all the time. Yeah. We're always on just that little edge. Just need to just take that last little step, and then we will be heralded as one of the best places in the UK, in the world. I really believe that. But what needs to stop is people need to stop leaving us.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
And I think, as we said earlier about the 2040 plan and things that are coming, and things, the Luton that we're going to see in 20 years' time, should be that dream realised and actually, achieved. That we will just be this place that people will want to come and live, and people will want to be. It'd be the place for the future.
Yeah.
But we're not there yet, and people need to hang on to that dream, hang on to that, belief that we are changing. Our thought is coming. Even as we sit here, we've got the Lee River being opened up for a green space, and there is so much change coming. And even now, we're only a quarter way to what we're going to become. It's that I'm excited for what Luton can become.
Me too.
It's just about waiting for the processes to happen for it to be completed, and then we'll be able to fully appreciate the benefit.
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. I agree. I'm like so down with that. That's the way that I see the future going for Luton, and I just really hope that we don't have any hiccups along the way, because there has been hiccups, but the future does look bright, and I think that it's probably good to make it there. I think that we've talked about some really cool stuff, and to end on a bit of positivity about the future for our town, I think is a perfect way to sign off. And to just say to you that everything that you've done so far has been really inspirational, and what you're continuing to do makes me even more happy, because I see you going in the great direction. And if you ever need someone to talk to about any of that stuff, or if you want to just come on the podcast again and just talk about what you want to do and stuff like that, I want to help to make you this great figure in the media, and I think that it's something that's easily achievable as long as you keep pushing that thing.
Look, inspirational is a big word, and I was thinking about this the other day, is that seeing myself as an inspiration and looking back at what I've done so far, and you can quite easily get carried away and think, wow, what things that I've done, and I almost feel like that's my limit. I've done everything, I don't need to do it, and that's simply not true.
Yeah.
And if people want to look at my story and be inspired, fine, but I wouldn't see myself as inspiration. I wouldn't consider myself to be the big I am, because I'm not going to pick myself up. I probably have some claim to do so, but I'm going to stay humble.
Yeah.
I've got to stay grounded, and I think I've always, in all the projects that I work in and all the people I'm involved with, is that I'm a minimal. I'm only, I feel I'm part of a wider collective. But what I will say is that if I can put people together, if I can support people where I can bring things to the table that they may not have, then I will do it, and I will make that thing as best as I can. And with people like yourself, getting involved with charity work as we've done over the summer, and people that I've been able to introduce to you, is that I know I've done my bit.
Yeah, man, it's totally.
You know what? I can pat myself on the back for that.
100%. And listen, look, if there's anybody out there, young budding, wannabe journalists, broadcasters, whatever you want to do, if you want to do something in the media, this is your man to come and talk to. He can give you some great advice. So, can we give your socials out? So, off you go.
Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at One Walshmeister. I have a blue tick on Twitter now, but let's not talk about paying for it. But I've got a tick now.
Hey, you're verified. He's verified. All right, cool.
Thanks, Elon.
All right, man. Luke, thank you so much for coming. It has been so much fun. I look forward to the next one. We'll do another one at some point in the future. We'll see what's going on. All right, good stuff. See you later, everybody. Love you, Luton. Okay.